Fun. Okay. We are going to make our best efforts to get it done. But one way or the other, we'll at least be able to get the process started, get everything cut out, and then you'll be able to understand the basics of it, and then kind of go from there in regards to it. I also brought my endless loop jig, just because I wanted to be able to, if you're obviously into archery, which I'm assuming that you are, there's really two different main styles of strings that you'll make. Flemish twist is probably the one that we like. I like a lot from the aspect of it looks cool because we can add different color, it can be a lot more fun. And I just wanted to kind of bring an example of what one essentially is going to look like, right? It's going to be two different colors twisted together, right? You don't have a served end to either one of them, and then your serving is really just kind of in the centerpiece that's in here. So the other style of string making is going to be endless loop, and this is the kind of jig that you would want to create to be able to do the serving for an endless loop one. And it's not really complicated, so that's kind of why I wanted to bring it out. Plus, you need lots of space for this make and take. We're going to be needing lots of space to measure things out. I was hoping to have chairs, but because we don't have chairs, and I don't think they take it too kindly if we start nailing into stuff, may have to set up in a lot of different places to be able to kind of measure everything out. So we'll kind of walk through what this process is, and then we'll get a little bit more into detail in regards to what we need to do. But I wanted to kind of just show the kind of jigs that we have. And again, the process, like if you're in the brewing class, I know a few of you guys were in the brewing class, we kind of talked about it. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't really have to have a jig. Jigs just make things easier. A lot of people get intimidated, you know, especially with something like string making, you know, because you're dealing with stuff that's under pressure. And they're like, oh, I got to go buy all the equipment. And like, you don't really have to buy the equipment. I've made a lot of strings without having to need them. The jigs just make things easier in the process. So today we're working on a Flemish twist method. And this is the kind of jig that you'll see that's out there in regards to being able to measure it off. But what we'll find out here is that really you just need 2 points, and then you got to measure the distance between those 2 points and know what string you're making. So, you know, and that's really all we really need to do to be able to do that. And that's why we have some of this other kind of stuff that's set up here to kind of go through it. So what I'll do is we'll first off, what we want to do is we're going to talk about what's the size of string that we need to make. Mm-hmm. Is everyone kind of familiar with the string that they're interested in making?
No. Not at all.
Not at all? Okay. Well, that's why page 1, sizing your string. So the nice thing about any string is they're adjustable in size, right? So you're going to be able to twist it to be able to take length out of it.
Oh.
You know, so you can adjust to a certain point. Now, anything beyond about an inch, and you should just make a string shorter than that. So if it's not perfect, I mean, we're not dealing with super precision here, because you're going to have the ability to kind of adjust your string on your own. There's some aspects of this that you're going to want to take into consideration first. Obviously, I see a lot of Asian style bows. These are the most difficult to get the string size correct on.
Awesome, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. So, and just one of the reasons why is that when you're dealing with the distance, usually you're measuring your ammo length across it. So we'll have to use some measurements. We're probably better off being a little bit larger.
This one has a string.
Yeah, if that one has a
We can
string,
just use the length of that.
we can go ahead and remake that exact string with that same length.
Okay.
So are these both the same size, do you know?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, even though this is my picture on the front with your wax thing,
Yeah, it appears.
on the
that,
back is his information. So inside here, if you need to
So
contact
great,
him to
we'll
help
measure
you.
that string. We'll measure that string, we'll make
Perfect.
one just exactly like it.
That sounds great. Thank you.
When you have a long bow, which is looks like what you have, and if you don't mind, I can use yours as an example here. I have one that I can pull out here too. But... Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So what we're looking at here is going to be a measurement from the end of the little cross here to the end of the little cross here. That's going to be our string length. So, I'm sorry, that's going to be our ammo length, not our string length. So the ammo length. If you, on your bow, you may see an ammo length actually written out. So this one is 68 inches. Ammo length. I'm assuming that's what that is. This is handmade?
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone put down, I'm assuming that's what their ammo length is. They didn't mark it ammo, but you'll see a lot of bows will actually have an ammo length on it, and that is the measurement down here across the handle and then up to the other peak there. Thank you.
What's the weird?
And when you see a like a longbow, you're looking for about 3 inch shorter. So then that ammo length. And if you're using a recurve, obviously the recurve, you're also measuring around the recurve down through there and then across the handle. On that, you're taking 4 inch shorter than the ammo length. So that's one of the important pieces to it. So,
Can I grab this?
sure, yeah, absolutely. If you want to look at them, feel free to go ahead and kind of grab them, and then we'll be able to kind of grab as we want in regards to the colors that we have available, and we can be able to build some strings. Yeah, so basically, so that's important to Pete. So if you know your ammo length, we're going to just take the numbers shorter than that. That's the quickest and easiest way to be able to get the measurement that we're wanting to start with. But all those things obviously affect your brace height. They're going to be, and everyone's got a different feel for that brace height in regards to what they want, right? So it's also knowing your bow. That's going to be a big piece to it. So you might make a string, and then you might decide that you want to make a shorter string later on. So that's why it's really important to be able to do that. So measurement's going to be the first piece, and I'm just going to run through this real quick, and then we'll start getting into some of the techniques of it, and then we'll start laying it all out and start actually making the strings. So sizing your string, first part, I've got a little page in there that's going to give you the ability to write those numbers down, and we'll kind of fill it in as we go. Okay, the other piece is obviously going to be loop sizes. So we're adding on a string that we're making, if we're looking at just measuring 2 points, and what we can do, I like to just use clamps for this purpose, is you just get a big space, you can just figure out kind of the distance that you want, throw the clamp on it. We can probably do on these little benches over here when we're making this to be able to find the distance that we need, and then you can measure that off. 9 inches on either side, so 18 inches additionally above and beyond the ammo length plus whatever your number is, right? 3 for longbows, 4 for recurves, and then we'll just do the custom, just kind of match up where we're at on that one. But you're looking for 9 inches on each side, so 18 additional inches, and that's what's going to be twisted in to be be able to hold that string together. I believe the recommendation is that you want at least 6 inches that's actually folded into it for safety, but somewhere in that 4 to 6 range is kind of the requirements for safety purposes. Number of strings. Someone was asking about the poundage of the bows that to be able to make it. So I put a chart on here for everyone. If you're looking at 20 pounds, you could make a 10-inch string. It's going to be a quicker string. So it might make a difference, might actually give you a nice little advantage. A little bit more speed coming out of that. What's that?
Do you have another printout?
I don't. I only had so many of them, yeah. But we'll be able to kind of share them kind of through the process. Are you going to be making a bowstring today?
I just really wanted to watch.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't bring my bow.
Okay. Are you familiar with your ammo length? No. Okay. Yep. But the number of strings is going to be really driven based on that poundage, right? You do not want to under strand your string if it's too high a poundage. So we do want to be able to make sure that we're going to have enough poundage here. So anything above 60 pounds, 18 strands or strings, into it is essentially what we're looking for to be able to get everything going here.
I'll hold it.
Let's see, just want to make sure I'm covering everything here for you. Okay. So I think I might want to try to demonstrate this here so that we can kind of get it kind of started, and then what we'll do is we'll lay everything else out. Who's all making strings? You are. Okay.
If we got the time, I do, but I don't have the bow with me.
Okay. And are you familiar with your ammo length?
The bow's still in process, so I can still adjust it as needed, so we can work with it.
Okay. And honestly, if you don't know your ammo length, we can still make one. Are you familiar with kind of how to tie, rather than having 2 loops on this, how to be able to tie one end of it to your string?
Okay.
It's called like a bowline hitch, I believe. I think I put it in here.
Is that what a bowline is named after? That's probably right. Bowline is the strongest knot around.
Yeah, the bowline hitch.
Yeah. I bet that's why they call it.
Actually, Boyer's knot is what
Boyer's
I
knot.
Not a bowline hitch. I'm sorry. Too many things in my head.
I'm interested to see if it's the same though.
Yeah, but a Boyer's knot being, because a bowline is for, I think,
mountaineering.
Mountaineering, but it's also for ships, I think.
Yes.
Sure,
is
yeah,
where
yeah,
the terminology
it's
for
the best
a bow
knot.
of a boat.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, is I think where it is. But this
Bow
is
line,
actually
yeah.
a Boyer's knot, which is a way to be able to tie it in. And essentially what you'll have is you'll have a loop on one end, and it'll just be a string on the
that's a
other. I
bowline, yeah.
thought I had an example here. Let me see if I have one. I do. This is one that I made. And essentially, in this situation, you're going to have a loop towards the top. It's going to be able to loop on that, and then you're just going to tie it at the bottom. So you're just going to put a knot in it at the bottom here. And essentially what you're going to do is, and I'll demonstrate that. Sorry, apparently there's a knot in it already.
I'm heading to gate to go do some shift. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I'd say it's 100% under.
I feel like I want a cat call.
Okay, so can I use it, demonstrate your bow real quick?
Okay.
Thank you. So in this situation, if you were going to use, let's say, this string, do you mind if I take the string off?
Not at all.
Okay. Do here. So obviously in this one here, we've got a loop on either end. And then is this the bow that you're going to be working on?
Yes.
Okay, so what we'll do is we can also just measure the string and make sure, as long as that string is the right length here for you. Yeah. So you would basically, not knowing what it is, you're just going to tie it to the end. So an example would be you're going to come back across here, and then you're basically making a cinch knot that's very strong. That's going to come off the end. Now you're going to have this, right? Which if you ever see out there on any range or any thing that you're shooting on, someone that has, I'm sorry about that, but something hanging off the end like that, that'd have been very traditional. And then the loop would stay on one side of it. Obviously the string is much larger, but we could size this string, not knowing the size of this bow, we could string this bow with this string by just shortening down this end until this is falling 3 inches below.
3 inches.
And then you're going to be able to string that up onto that to be able to have your length. And then you can adjust your brace height accordingly, either by adjusting that or by twisting the string. So it's going to give you some flexibility in regards to how you do that. So you don't have to know right now if you do want to build a string. So I'll just show you kind of an example of that.
Question. So would you be able to do that with a horse bow with the bigger loops?
It may be more challenging with the horse bow.
Or maybe a different kind of knot, maybe.
Yeah. So the challenge with doing it with the horse bow, not having the loop, is just because you're dealing with such a big difference on the spacing, on being able to string it. It may be more challenging, but there's no reason why it wouldn't work. I mean, this is going to be as tight as any loop that you would make. It would just be the challenge of what it takes to actually get it strung.
Got it.
So it's a little bit more challenging at times with a horse bow, because it is really stretching that much more. So here's an example of essentially what you could make as well, not knowing your ammo length on that.
All the super period fortune century reactors have that
Do they?
little string hanging off the bottom of their bow. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's probably very traditional to have that.
Go ahead.
You know, obviously with longbows you see it quite often.
Yeah.
Just because it gives you flexibility to be able to use that string on any bow you want. So, okay. So the actual technique of the process. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'm going to make a one that's going to be 68 inches. We'll just make it long, since we're only going to do one side of it. And then what we'll do is we'll play with the technique, and I think we have enough time to actually work with the technique enough to be able to finish it on our own, even if you don't finish here with it. So it's obviously one of the challenges with doing this. The nice thing is, I mentioned, multiple colors. It's always kind of fun to be able to do. What you're going to be doing is finding 2 points at the distance you need, right? And if we have a handout there, 18 inches above and beyond the ammo length plus the amount of length that you're needing for your string. So to be able to fold everything in. So you're going to do 2 strands. So we have to go to the number of strings that we're going to need. So I'm going to go ahead on the higher side of this. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This one, the reason why this is built the way it is it tapers the ends. So if you look at the pin placements here, as I measure this off, it will give me tapered ends. So on this kind of example where it looks like it's all chunky right here, and then it kind of tapers down a little bit, it's going to help make that taper on it for you, so that it's a little bit cleaner. Without the tapered ends, which is really kind of one of the other ways to do it, you're going to end up with something that's going to have a little bit more of a solid drop off from the twists to the rest of the string. The other thing that we're going to take into consideration is we're going to add some reinforcement loops. And I'll show you an example. This does not have any reinforcement loops on this one does. And if you look at the difference there, while the strings are very similar in thickness here, this loop is much thinner. And that's because it's over without any sort of reinforcement loops in it. So we're going to cut some additional strands off of this to be able to add that to the loop to make sure that it is similar strength. It's also going to hold up to a lot more wear and tear as a string. So we'll pull off some additional strands that we're going to work into it. So it's being a hands-on kind of process. We're going to be getting wax on our hands, and obviously my wife was here doing some other classes. I think she was talking about herbs and lots of other things, and these are little hearts from the wax from our beehives, which we got a chance to kind of play around and make recently. So those, feel free to grab one of those if you're making a string. And then I also have some string maker's wax, which is a little bit more tacky and maybe a little bit easier to work with to be able to make the strings. So when we're doing that, so I'll get some of these opened up here for everyone. Though it's actually kind of a cold day out today. So sorry, I'm from Arizona where normally wax is a liquid. Yeah. But yeah, these are certainly, but we'll be able to get enough, a little friction on them. We'll be able to get the wax off of them onto the strings. The strings are also pre-waxed, so there is wax in the strings as it is. Okay, so let me go ahead and start kind of laying this out. I don't have a bow specifically in mind here, so I'm just gonna make a 18 strand one, though for most people shooting, 14, 16 is probably plenty on doing that. We're gonna start here in the back, and I think I'm just gonna do
Would this be like hemp in period, or what would the material be for the string?
for the strings? That's a really good question. The type of material, I believe you would have had like horsehair and things like that.
Okay. It's pretty much whatever you have.
I'm not actually as familiar with that. I mean, if you ask me a period brewing question, I probably could answer you, but when it comes to archery, I don't know as much about that. Anyone know?
Linen.
Linen? You use a lot of linen for that?
It was basically
Sinew.
yeah, sinew. It's true.
Sinew, yeah. I know sinew's used a lot in bow making. I don't know what that's like in regards to breaking that down. If you ever worked with sinew before, I have. It can be a challenge to be able to make a string. That's certainly quite the challenge. In this, I like to, so obviously from an archery standpoint, you've got fast flight, which doesn't give a lot, all the way down to B50, which actually has a lot of give in it. I recommend B50 or B55 bow string materials for most of the bows that you have, is unless you're shooting a modern bow that can really take that impact of something that's like a fast flight, you want something that has some give in it. So a lot of the bows that we're going to be shooting out there on the range, you do want that give in it. So I would say, unless you know what you're shooting, you can shoot fast flight with it. I'd recommend probably avoiding that from a string making standpoint, because you'll just find that you'll end up breaking some bows. Beyond that, I like the B50. It has a lot of give to it, but it's also really quiet. So it's kind of fun to shoot it and not have as much sound and reverberation coming off of it. Though there's some advantages to the other ones because they'll shoot a little bit faster. There's some, obviously some technical advantages if you did want to use other string material. So as you get better with it, you can kind of adjust accordingly. So in your guys' situation, when we kind of lay them out, we'll go ahead and just put them on like tables and things like that to be able to measure them out. Here, I already know that this length cut once is going to give me a 68-inch string, while what you're going to be looking at doing is you're going to be having 2 points at a distance that we'll set up somewhere with like these clamps, and then you'll be cutting on either end, right? So you'll need to know how many strands on that side. So we're doing half in this one color. So we're going to run it up. Like I said, it's kind of cool to have obviously a jig, but it's not a necessity.
Did you hand make that?
No, I didn't, but there is some plans online if you want to go through the process to hand make it. I thought about that. I handmade this. So, and for I generally, in my experience, while this makes a fancier looking one, this is a much quicker process, is to be able to make an endless loop. Because an endless loop, it's one color, you can whip it together, and then you're just serving it. So from a technique standpoint, it is important to kind of keep some pressure on it. Apologize, it's kind of labor intensive. I think this is one of the reasons why it's a challenge to get this class done as a make and take. But I'm willing to help you guys out through the process here.
How much do the rolls of the B50s cost?
They're somewhere $10, $12.
Oh, that's not, and it lasts a while, it looks like.
Yeah. You can make 8 strings, something like that, 8, 10 strings out of them.
Okay.
There's probably people who've got a little bit better. So we're going to want to go to 8. So we're doing 18. So we're actually going to go to 6.
Why is it that you are moving down on that end down there?
To taper it off.
This is so that the ends are tapered, so that each string is going to be a different
Final length.
Yeah, different length.
So you don't get that thick board.
Yeah, so that basically as we twist them together,
Okay.
it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, so that it's a lot smoother coming down off that. Doesn't have to be that.
Okay.
So you could just hard cut them, and when you hard cut them, you just end up, as you twist them together, you're going to be, here it's twisted, here it's not. And
Okay.
there's going to be a hard stop at that point.
Okay.
You can slightly cut them at different lengths yourself as we separate them out. So we are at 7.
So this process that you're doing, you're gonna have to do it 16 times?
No, just twice. 2 different colors.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you want to start measuring, in fact, that may be for anyone who's making a string, if they want to grab a couple of clamps and start laying them out at the distance of the string that we want to be able to make.
Okay.
So, and you are copying this string here, right? So what you're going to want to is, from the ends of these, you're going to want to add 9 inches. Right. So you want to measure from here to here. I'm sorry, plus 9 inches on each side. So
9 inches on both
18
sides.
inches.
Okay.
Yeah, from those points.
Okay.
Do we have a measuring tape?
Has anyone ever done Flemish twisting before?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
I make some bows, and the guy who taught me how to do that. But I haven't done strings in longer than I've done bows.
Okay.
Because we had somebody in the Shire at the time that was better at strings than I, so I just went to him for a while.
Okay.
we're not
But you've
there.
made a few bows?
Yeah.
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 Self bows or?
Yeah, they've all been self bows. Most of them have been red oak self board bows. There've been a few that have risers on the grips and whatnot. Got an Osage bow under construction at the moment, and a hickory with a bamboo back going as well.
Yeah, I've made a few bows in my years, but it takes a lot of challenge, you know, especially when you deal with the time that's involved in tillering.
Yeah. So the when you started going into the knot work, my tillering string for the process is exactly like what you described. It's actually, I think it's 70 inches long, and it
Yeah.
has a Flemish on one end, and the other end is just knotted so that I can take it
I
down.
think I've used that one in making a few bows.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I brought everything that we're going to need. So essentially the way this is set up is it's just really their design. So it's really easy just to cut down the middle. And again, essentially I'm just cutting down the middle, and as you see, it's all nicely tapered. That moves away. And then what I like to do is, before I'm pulling it off of here, I kind of want all this to gather, because obviously this is 8 strands, so I'm basically just going to take it underneath my thumb, and I'm just going to start putting some wax into it. So this can actually take a little bit of time, because essentially what I'm trying to do is just get enough tackiness to it to where it'll hold together on the ends. Sorry, unfortunately, normally we're doing this in a classroom.
You're doing great.
Appreciate it.
So
Somehow I
40 pounder.
pulled one of these strings out of alignment here. And again, it's not normally cold trying to do this, so now I'm trying to get enough wax off of this. Yeah, and I gotta figure out which string I pulled, because that has created a problem now.
Okay, so let's do 12.
Sorry, this is kind of a mess. It's not normally an outdoor thing.
How's it going, John?
All right. So, did you guys get your measurement?
No, not a clue. No.
Okay. So have
No.
you you measured the string?
No.
Okay.
Where's the?
These are fast strings.
Yeah. It's gonna what? Yeah, Daquan will stretch. So what you'll end up is a lot of times you can take out the stretch with a twist.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm
you have to
coming
make
in
it
with
shorter.
0 knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll stretch it. So it'll stretch. If you made this exact one, you probably see about 2 inches of stretch, which you're going to either have to twist together, or you're going to want to make it a little bit shorter. So
Okay.
maybe shoot for an inch.
Okay.
Right. So maybe go about an inch shorter, knowing that it's going to stretch it out.
Okay.
So what you're going to want to do is measure that distance between those 2 ends. Yeah, plus 18 inches to give yourself a place to stretch it into. Okay.
And then hers we already know because it's marked, right?
Yes. Yeah. So yours is 68 inches, right? And are you wanting to do yours with loops on either end?
How much do I have?
18.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So that's 38 plus 18.
So what you could do is, if we half that distance, that's a little bit easier to
take off an each for the
manage.
But add 4, he said, right? For the
Yeah.
horse bow, he adds 4, or he adds 3 for the grip?
Okay. And then how much for
that
Right.
we'll do that later, but this is just for the middle part.
Okay.
Yeah. So yours is 3 inch shorter than the ammo length. So 68 less 3. Did you want to do yours where you tied at the end, or do you want loops on either end? You want to do it with the loops. Okay.
Loops on both sides?
Okay. So we're doing 68 inches plus 18.
And then minus 3 because the long bow, or add 3 because it's the long bow for the grip, you were saying?
Yes. So
Add 21.
68, right? So minus 3, it's going to be
Oh, minus
65
3.
inch. Plus 18. So,
Hold on.
or you can just measure that string right there.
What was it?
And then add 18 to it.
What's going on?
So, is that right? 83?
What was the original numbers?
83.
Yeah.
Math's is hard.
So the 9
So,
inches.
which should be 18 inches more than that string, if you just want to measure that string.
Just from here at the bottom.
So the 9 inches on both sides turn into the loop, right?
Correct, the loop and what gets folded back down into it.
All right.
So what we want to do, so in yours, and if you just half that size that you need, then you can do it and cut once, and that usually saves some time. So do we know, is it 70? We need 73. Or here, if this helps, do this. Watch. If you just tie this right here. So like if we just put that around that like that,
Okay.
and then go ahead. What's that there? Should be 60. So you figure 64 plus 3 inches,
Okay.
so 67.
Okay.
So they're about 4 inches shorter. Is that right? From that ammo length? If you want to duplicate this string exactly, you're going to get some stretch on it because it's it is B50, so material, it's going to stretch. So you can either twist it back down on the stretch, or we can make it a little bit shorter,
Okay.
and it'll stretch out. Yeah, either way. So, okay, so 64 inches, right, is the string. So plus 18 is how long?
Eighty-two?
82?
That sounds right. Yep.
82? Right? Okay. So you want to write down those numbers.
Sorry.
And then what you want to do is now measure a distance either from a point. You can measure it over there. Why don't we do 41 inches apart? So if we do this here, what you want is 41 inches, wherever that is. You're going to measure that off from 41 inches from there. Yeah, you go around and then you'll cut one side of it. Yep. And you're more than welcome to use this if you want.
Yeah.
Are you doing 68 inches?
I am doing. ¿Cuántas? How many? How many inches was it? We said 55, right? I'm doing 55?
Yeah, and then plus 18. I don't know.
No, we already did. Like, we added it
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah,
the
yeah.
55.
It was 56 and then 55, yes.
Yeah.
55.
So you need to move this back up. Are each of these a half inch or a full inch?
Half inch.
Half inch.
Okay, so that's 67, 66, 65, 64, 63, 62, 61, 60, 9, 8, 7, 6. Oh man, what do we do?
You're trying to make something smaller? I think you measure the distance. You don't use that.
Okay.
It's much better not to. I honestly much better not use it. I've never used it. This is the first time I've ever used that one.
Oh, you never used it?
No.
Oh.
I always do the.
And then you
measure
snip it as you go for the
for the tapering.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I learned on that thing.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that we could probably do this and then just twist it a little bit more.
So that's gonna be too long? Is what you're?
Right now it's gonna be a little bit too long.
Okay.
Is there a limit to how much you can twist it in? I know there's a limit on how much you can twist it out. Is there a limit on how much you can twist
There probably
in?
is. Yeah. At some point it's gonna be too twisted.
Right, because it's gonna start
Yeah.
actually trying to. The string is gonna be too much tension.
Yeah, but you're still gonna be able to get it a good couple of inches out of it.
See.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so like I said, because it's such a small bow,
Yeah.
or small string on those,
Okay.
it gets a little bit more complicated.
Okay. So what if I start here instead?
How many strands are you doing?
12.
Yeah.
What's the poundage on your bow?
40.
You want 14 then, don't you?
I mean, that's not an exact science.
Fair.
I literally cannot move without your help.
Yeah, so it's not an exact science.
Yeah. Okay.
So, all right. So what's the size string that you're looking at making?
I believe 55.
Yeah, I'll go down.
So you need a 55-inch string.
Okay.
Plus,
So take this
so
off?
wait, hold on. So you need a 55-inch string.
Okay.
Plus how many inches?
No.
18.
That's no. That was like 55, right?
55 plus.
Because I think it was
with
less.
the 18 inches.
Yeah, it
above.
was less,
Okay,
and then
let's
we
measure.
added to get to 55. So 55
let
is
me
the
actually
total
see the-
project,
so
and then we fold
do you have,
the two ends in by 3 inches.